You got the cage right. You did the research. You spend time with your bird every single day. And when it comes to food, you've been careful. Or at least you've tried to be. You avoid the obvious things. You know about avocado. You've heard about chocolate. But what if the things that are quietly hurting your bird aren't the obvious ones? What if they're the foods you've been giving without a second thought? The ones that look fine, that your bird eats happily, that show up on half the care guides you've ever read. That's what this video is about, not the dramatic poisons, the slow ones. And I want to say this before we get into anything else. None of what follows is about blame. You didn't know. Most owners don't. The information is scattered, contradictory, and buried under decades of outdated advice. What we're going to do today is pull it into one place, clearly, specifically, with the science behind it, so that by the end of this, you have a cleaner picture of what your bird's diet is actually doing to their body. There's one item on this list that I think is going to genuinely surprise you. It appears on almost every recommended bird food list I've ever seen. It's sold in pet stores as a healthy option, and there is accumulating evidence that it's doing something slow and damaging to your bird's liver over months and years. We'll get to that. Hold on to it. 1. Fruit juice and dried fruit. Most people assume that if fresh fruit is good for birds, then dried fruit and fruit juice must be roughly equivalent, just more concentrated versions of the same thing. That logic makes complete sense on the surface, and parrots love both. They go after them eagerly, which is part of the problem. Here's what the science shows. Dried fruit contains dramatically higher sugar concentrations than fresh fruit, sometimes 4 to 6 times more per gram, because the water has been removed, but the sugars remain. Dr. Susan Orosh, a board-certified avian specialist, has written extensively on the relationship between excess dietary sugar and fatty liver disease in cetaceans. Parrots did not evolve to process the kind of sugar load that dried mango, dried papaya, and raisin mixes deliver. Their livers are not built for it. Over time, that excess sugar gets converted to fat, and it accumulates in the liver at a rate that doesn't produce visible symptoms until serious damage has already occurred. Here's the part most owners miss. Your bird doesn't regulate their own sugar intake. If it's in front of them, they eat it. That eagerness you read as "they love this" is actually just the same mechanism that makes parrots overeat seeds. It feels like preference. It's closer to compulsion. You didn't know it was hurting them. That's the part that matters. And that's exactly what we're going to fix today. 2. Peanuts. And this is where I want to stop for a second, because if anything in this list is going to frustrate you, it's this one. Peanuts are everywhere in the bird world. They're in foraging toys, training treats, flock mixes, and enrichment activities sold specifically for parrots. The idea that they're a healthy, protein-rich snack is so deeply embedded in bird owner culture that questioning it almost feels absurd. But here's what that assumption is missing. Peanuts are not tree nuts, they're legumes. They grow underground, and because of that, they are far more susceptible to a specific mold called Aspergillus flavus, which produces aflatoxin. Aflatoxin is one of the most potent, naturally occurring liver carcinogens known to science. It doesn't produce visible mold. It doesn't change the smell or texture of the peanut. You cannot detect it by looking at the nut. Research published in the Journal of Veterinary Diagnostic Investigation has documented aflatoxicosis in pet birds, liver failure, immune suppression, and in acute cases, sudden death, linked to contaminated peanut exposure. This is not a theoretical risk. The danger isn't in every peanut, but the problem is that you have no way to know which ones are safe. And hey, if this is already changing how you think about your bird's diet, hit that like button and subscribe. This kind of science-backed bird care content is what we do every week at Plumis. Now, back to the list. 3. Iceberg lettuce and celery. I personally find this one interesting because these are foods that feel virtuous. You're giving your bird vegetables. That should be good. And it would be if these particular vegetables offered anything nutritional. They don't. Iceberg lettuce is approximately 96% water. It provides almost no vitamins, no meaningful minerals, and no fiber that would benefit your bird. The same is broadly true for celery. The issue isn't toxicity, it's displacement. Every bite of iceberg lettuce your bird takes is a bite they didn't take of something that would have actually helped them. Dr. Laurie Hess, an avian veterinary specialist who has worked with hundreds of cytosine patients, she describes this as nutritional dilution, the gradual crowding out of beneficial foods by low-value ones that the bird finds equally palatable. Over months, a diet that includes a lot of these filler vegetables produces subtle deficiencies. Feather quality declines, energy levels drop, immune function weakens. None of it looks like a specific problem. It just looks like a bird who's not quite thriving. And that's exactly why it's hard to trace back to diet. This is the part that changes everything. It's not about what your bird is eating. It's about what your bird isn't getting because of what they're eating. 4. Table salt and anything processed. Birds have kidneys that are extraordinarily efficient and extraordinarily fragile under sodium stress. In the wild, cytosines encounter almost no dietary sodium. Their kidneys evolved in a near-zero sodium environment. Research from avian veterinary medicine programs at the University of California, Davis, has demonstrated that even small amounts of dietary sodium, the kind found in crackers, bread, pasta, rice cakes, and processed human food in general, can overload renal function in parrots over time. The symptoms of chronic low-level kidney stress in birds are subtle. Increased thirst, slight changes in dropping color and consistency, gradual weight changes. By the time clinical signs are visible, renal damage is usually already significant. What makes this particularly difficult is that parrots enjoy salty food. They'll eat crackers off your plate with apparent enthusiasm. And it's easy, genuinely easy, to read that as proof that a small amount is harmless. Think about how many times you've shared something from your plate with your bird. Not because you were being careless, because they wanted it, and they're your companion, and sharing felt natural. That's not bad ownership. That's love. It just needs a small correction. 5. Honey. This one surprises people. Honey feels natural. It's a whole food. It's been used in traditional cooking for thousands of years, and occasionally you'll see it recommended for birds, in homemade treat recipes, as a coating for birdie bread, in various bird-safe cooking guides. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Raw honey can contain Clostridium botulinum spores, the bacteria responsible for botulism. In adult humans, these spores are generally harmless because our gut bacteria suppress them. Parrots have a completely different gastrointestinal microbiome. For avian medicine literature, including work published through the Association of Avian Veterinarians, has flagged honey as a potential botulism risk in birds, particularly young birds or birds with any degree of immune compromise. The risk isn't certain, but it isn't theoretical either. Here's where the science gets uncomfortable. Most of the owners who have lost a bird to a sudden, unexplained decline never found out why. And honey in a homemade treat is not the kind of thing that makes it onto a necropsy report as a suspected cause, which is part of why this risk has stayed so far under the radar. You didn't know it was hurting them. That's the part that matters. And that's exactly what we're going to fix today. 6. Now, here's the one I mentioned at the beginning. The food that appears on recommended bird lists everywhere. The one sold as a health food in pet stores. The one your bird probably eats right now without any visible sign that anything is wrong. Corn. Specifically, processed corn. Corn chips, corn-based pellet fillers, dried corn used as a flock mix filler. Here's what makes this complicated. Fresh corn off the cob in small amounts is broadly considered safe and even enjoyable for parrots. That's the version most care guides reference when they say corn is okay. But the processed, dried versions, particularly corn used as bulk filler in cheaper seed and pellet mixes, carry the same aflatoxin contamination risk as peanuts. Aspergillus mold is not selective. It colonizes any carbohydrate-rich crop that's stored improperly. And because corn is so commonly used as cheap filler in bird food, whilst the storage conditions in supply chains are not always controlled. But here's the second layer. And this one goes deeper. Corn is high in starch and low in meaningful nutrients for cytosines. Dr. Brian Spear, a leading avian veterinary specialist and past president of the Association of Avian Veterinarians, has written about the long-term impact of high-starch, low micronutrient diets on liver function in captive parrots, specifically calling out corn-heavy diets as a contributing factor in the epidemic of hepatic lipidosis, or fatty liver disease, in captive cytosines. Fatty liver disease is now one of the leading causes of death in captive parrots. It develops silently, over years. It doesn't produce symptoms until the disease is advanced, and it is almost entirely diet-driven. The reason I saved this for last isn't because it's the most dangerous item on this list. It's because it's the most common, the most trusted, and the one most likely to still be sitting in your bird's food dish right now. Your bird has been trusting you with every meal. They can't read the label. They can't tell you something feels off until it really does. That's the weight of what we're talking about. Not guilt, but responsibility. And the kind of care that becomes possible the moment you actually have the information. Tell me in the comments, which of these surprised you most? I genuinely read everyone. And if you want to go further, the next video covers what your bird's droppings are actually telling you about their health and what most owners have been misreading for years. Your bird has been eating what you offered them, completely trusting that you knew, and now, finally you do.